you'll notice that we printed Avinu Shabashamayim in parentheses to indicate it was not part of the original prayer. But it's a very subtle nod to what Shep pointed out, that the original prayer and the original language about God in the state of Israel was not Avinu Shabashamayim. They would not have done that. But it has been added, and when we sing it with Avinu, because the setting that we love to sing it to
Avinu, Avinu.
includes Avinu Shabashamayim. So that you are now on another little detail of the story that's a kind of a secret. So you could see that in the parentheses. And
So
if for those
Rabbi,
who don't have it, there you could go. You see how
Oh yeah, yeah.
the parentheses says Avinu Shabashamayim.
I love watching everyone lean close into their screen every time this all comes up. So Rabbi, I did the warm up without you. We thanked Annika for all the hard work that she's doing, and she was thanked by everyone. And I would just say that there are probably some people here who have not yet been filmed. Please, Annika is working very hard and she is doing her best to make everyone look good. And that can at times mean asking you to move your computer and to change the lighting in your background. I have seen the Zoom recordings, and I know that some people have discussed with her whether that is necessary. I will say I've seen the recordings. Most of them are terrific. Some of them, and I will say that most of them are terrific. And I will say that when the program is shown, we all look as good as we all look. And don't be the person who didn't listen to Annika and has we want to make you look good. Let's just say that. And all that Annika is doing is for your own good. And please listen to her. And then there were some questions. Yes, the program is coming together. The video is going to be terrific. It's March 16th. We have distributed the link to register, please. Donate, please. And you can invite anyone you would invite to your school play or your piano recital. It is so that everybody can convey about the wonderful work that we've done and spread the word about CBST and the importance of Psalms. And with that, I turn it over to Senior Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum.
Wonderful. And I want to add just a couple of things. One is our blessings to Rafaela, who is a member of our class. And Harold alerted me that there was a fire in her building yesterday. And a person was actually killed in the fire. Rafaela, thank God you're okay. And we're grateful that you're okay and your apartment didn't even suffer damage. But it's all very frightening. So thank you, Harold, for noticing in the news about that building. And thank you, Rafaela. We're so grateful that you're with us today studying and you're okay. And I also was on the phone this morning with Shari Klugman and Debbie Berman in Tel Aviv, who are very grateful to all those who reached out to them. Shari is very lonely in Israel in this week of Shiva, and we will be having a Zoom Shiva Minyan, Motzei Shabbat, 6:30 Saturday night. They want to do it even though it's going to be like 3 o'clock in the morning there, because they just moved back to Israel 3 months ago, and they don't really have a lot of community there. Plus COVID, it's all been very difficult. So continue, for those of you who know them at all, or even if you don't, reach out to them. Harold, can you put an email address in the chat so people can reach out to Shari and to Debbie? And they look forward to joining the class after Shiva on Monday. And I think she'll talk about the significance Saturday night of what the Psalms class has been for her this week. So I'll leave that for her to share on Saturday night when we gather. So the Zoom information for Shiva will be going out sometime this morning. Hasn't gone out yet, but it will be going out soon. Okay, back to Psalm 18. We're going to go back to, with these long Psalms, you have to really approach them, like you're looking at a symphony rather than a 3-minute pop song, right? So sometimes there's most pop songs are 3 to 5 minutes long. They have one idea in them and they're over in 3 to 5 minutes because that one idea is said. This, like a symphony, which could be 20, 30, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, even longer, has many things that needs to be said, and it takes longer to get to them. It's not quite as There are many different movements to it, and there's many ins and outs. And so just be patient, and we're putting it all together, and then we looked at it to begin with by looking at the big picture. We're now going into the smaller detail level, and then we'll go back to the big picture. So just hang on for the ride. Don't sweat the anxiety of not understanding everything. Okay. So we're gonna. I think we let go, or what's the word? We stopped.
Left off.
Left off. English, it's,
We marched forth.
we march forth. We are going to march forth now onto Pasuk Yud Aleph, the 11th verse, I think we got through 10, right? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So verse 11. And Yael, would you read 11 through 20? We're going to try and we'll do that today.
Sure. I'm going to read from my book.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I understand.
וירכב על כרוב ויעוף, וידע על כנפי רוח. ישת חושך סתרו, סביבותיו סוכתו, חשכת מים עבי שחקים. מנוגה נגדו עביו עברו, ברד וגחלי אש. וירעם בשמיים אדוני, ועליון ייתן קולו, ברד וגחלי אש. וישלח חיציו ויפיצם, וברקים רב ויהומם. ויראו אפיקי מים, ויגלו מוסדות תבל, מגערתך אדוני, מנשמת רוח אפיך. ישלח ממרום ייקחני, ימשני ממים רבים. יצילני מאויבי אז, ומשונאי כי אמצו ממני. יקדמוני ביום עידי, ויהי אדוני למשען לי. ויוציאני למרחב, יחלצני כי חפץ בי.
Thank you very much. And does somebody want to read the English from 11 to 20?
I can't see the screen. I'll let you choose, Rabbi.
Okay, Jeffrey Rogers, would you read for us? You have to unmute yourself, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Disappearing into secret darkness and embracing Sukkah in the night. Dark waters, thick clouds, blinded by brightness, the clouds cleared away, hail and coals of fire. Adonai thundered in the skies, the Most High unleashes his voice. Hail and coals of fire, he lets loose arrows, volley after volley, lightning after lightning, scattering everyone. Streams of water appeared, bearing the foundation of the world. When you uttered a rebuke, Adonai, when wind blasted forth from your nostril, you were sending a message from on high. You took me, you drew me out of the waves of water. You saved me from my powerful enemy and from those who hate me, who ganged up on me. They advanced on me on the day of my distress, but Adonai is my mainstay, directing me to boundless space, delivering me because God delights in me.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for reading that. Again, very cinematic. We have a lot of images here that it's a very big canvas. The sense of this psalm is, wow, such great drama. You can imagine a great opera, a great film. It just, there's a great, the description, and you'll notice how different that is from some of the other psalms we've read, which have been very internal in their feelings. And I would argue, and we'll look at these questions over and over again, these also can be internal. But for now, let's try and just understand the psukim, the verses themselves. So I think we're on 11. So the first thing I want to look at is the word kruv, which is translated here as a winged figure. We've read about the kruvim, which is the plural of kruv, Nobody really knows. This is one of those great words that nobody really, of course, knows what it's referring to. It's some kind of figure. We talk about the kruvim as being above the doorway going into the Holy of Holies, and on the Mishkan that would got carried around the desert. Sometimes it's translated as little angels. We think this is the origin of the English word cherub. So if you look at the Hebrew word keruv, it looks a lot like the word cherub in English, like a little, and that has influenced people seeing it as a little angelic little creature. We don't really know what the image is. We have a sense, so that's why Levy leaves it a little bit open-ended by calling it, you'll see some translations will use the word cherub, but Levy doesn't want to do that because immediately for an English reader, we have an image of what cherub is, and Levy doesn't want us to go there, but you could see that these words up there, look at that. That is a very classic example of that would be on top, that would be these winged figures. But again, this is this particular artist's understanding of what it would look like. Thank you, Harold. Oh, right, this is fantastic. That's showing the,
All right, hold on again. Yes, this is one of the many, many reconstructions of what the tent of meeting would have been,
right,
the Holy of Holies, the menorah, the showbread, the altar, and then this would have been this is the divine presence and the two figures who face each other on the other side of
moving,
the Ark of the Covenant with their wings tips touching, as described in the
right.
Torah.
So this is, so we, as, thank you so much for that, Harold. Wow, fantastic. So this is some kind of winged creature, which I love that image, and we don't really know exactly. And yes, it was made of gold. We know that. It's interesting because some of the images we get a lot of detail about what they are. The menorah, we know a lot about how many, uh, things,
Branches.
branches. See, teaching by charades. We know how many branches. We know the detail. Rabbi Rapport did a great discussion and teaching on Shabbat morning about the clothing that the priests would wear. We know so much detail. We know about the little bells and the little pomegranates that hung from their hems. And we know about the breastplates. And we know a lot about the headdress. So there are some places we have a great deal of detail. This we don't have quite as much. So it's some kind of, but this is where the English word cherub, we believe, comes from. Some kind of little winged figure, but maybe not an angel exactly. We don't really know. But here's a little winged figure for you. Okay, so the they rode or they drove or they mounted, it says here, on a winged figure. Vayof, and they flew. They took flight. And again, this is that Vav Ha'ipuch that we've talked about. They took flight. Vayedeh al kanfei ruach. On the kanfei are wings of pinions. Is a pinion a wing? I don't even know
Yes,
what that
yes.
English word means. A pinion
It's
is a wing.
pinions.
Okay. Wings of ruach, of wind. Ruach can mean energy. Ruach can mean power of that's not visible. So kanfei nisharim, we read a lot, the wings of eagles that will take us back in the days of Messiah, kanfei nisharim, kanfei shechina, under the wings of the shechina. Wings have this sense of a presence and of being embraced or covered. So wow, this is a very dramatic image. Who's the they exactly? We don't really know what the they is that Levi is referring to. Let's keep going for a moment here. And who we're talking about exactly. Disappearing into secret darkness. Choshech is darkness. Sitro, that is hidden. Remember, we've talked about the word Esther. Lahastir is to hide or to make invisible or to. So that word is very important in Jewish theology because again and again and again, we talk about a relationship with God when God is hidden or when God is visible. And Esther was the famous story. God's name is never found in the Megillah, in the book of Esther. and it's held up as a story um, of things that happen, but God's presence is hidden. In other places, God's presence might be visible, and we might know what this means internally or kind of instinctively, that sometimes we feel like we know what to do, where it's really clear what the path is, what we understand what a difficult decision is. It's obvious to us whether or not we can do it. Other times it's hidden. We don't really know what the right thing to do is. It's not so clear. We don't have a clean sense or a clear sense. And that, I think, is an excellent expression of what it means to experience God's hiddenness, as opposed to a sense of clear purpose or clear choice or clear decision. So this is secret darkness. This is not just darkness, right? This is secret darkness. What would that be? Darkness that is hidden. I think it's a fantastic image, right? Darkness that is hidden. Sevivotav, again, we've seen that word, to be surrounded. Sivivon, for those of you who know the word for dreidel in modern Hebrew, sivivon is a top that spins. So to be surrounded by, or Levi uses the word embraced, sukkah. Now notice that Levi doesn't translate sukkah, and he does this at different times when he's not really sure what they mean. He's going to use the Hebrew word. Does it mean just a regular canopy? Does it mean something specific? But embracing sukkah, dark waters. Again, we have the word darkness for dark waters. So there's a sense of, and thick clouds. So a sense of foreboding here, but also an embracing sukkah in the middle of all of this darkness and of dark waters, of, again, very operatic, very dramatic, and very, very big emotions. I imagine, art that's done on very large canvas. This is not a fine point. Verse, Pasuk Yud Gimel 13. Blinded by brightness. Now look at that comparison. We're not going to go through some of these. This Hebrew is a little obscure, but what a contrast to verse 12. Barad. We want to look at some of these words that we'll now see. Barad, which is one of the plagues, right? What's barad is hail, the hail that comes down, not the hail as in hail and hearty, but the hail that barad is hail that comes down. It's one of the plagues of Pesach. And you'll notice a lot of these words sound a little like some of the plagues of Pesach. Gachale esh, interesting, translates here, coals of fire. So we have fire here. 14. Vayarem, this is some kind of big sound. Bashamayim. Yud He Vav He. This is now we notice how rare God's name has been, or in these verses. Ve'elyon yiten kolon, and the one on high, elyon, like the same word for aliyah or aliyah, or ra'am is thunder. Okay, great. Then we get another word for thunder, which is barak, or is that lightning? I always mix them up. Barak is lightning, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I mix them up. Barad, we have here we go, barad again. 15, Vayishlach, he lets loose arrows. Okay, I want to get to the barak here. He lets loose arrows, volley after volley, lightning after lightning, scattering everyone. In the Hebrew, it doesn't repeat the words. He's trying to get the sense of a lot of it. So in English, he's just trying to get that sense. There's a lot, because it says uvrakim rav, a lot of lightning, but he's going for the alliteration and trying to make it have that energy. So barak in Hebrew means lightning, and it is a name in Hebrew, and it's a name in Hebrew like not
Ehud Barak.
Ehud Barak.
Baruch. Thank you. So it means lightning, and it's not the same as where Barack Obama gets his name, because he's using. It's probably the Arabic for Baruch more than this. It's a different shoresh totally. But Barak, and I have a very good friend in Israel whose first name is Barak. I don't think they do that for young people now, but it's definitely my generation. Is it? Yeah, El, do you know, is it still used?
I know a Barak in his 40s.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, it's a man's name for lightning. I love that. It's very Native American in that way, right? They're kind of using a natural phenomenon. Okay, 16. Now we go from, what have we had here? We've had hail, we've had fire, we've had thunder, we've had lightning, we've had darkness. And in 16, we now have water appearing. There's so many different natural elements that, in some ways, the thing that they have common is that if they are in their natural or calm state, they're necessary to the world's existence. But if they are excessive, they can kill us. That there's a level of we need water, right? But if there's too much water, it's a flood. We need rain and hail. That's not dangerous until there's too much of it. The same thing with some of the things we read yesterday. Everything has a sense of balance, and if the balance is off, the exact same thing can be a source of death. And so we see that throughout this psalm as a sense of a natural thing that in its natural balance, in its natural state, provides our earth its basic needs. And if it were not to be in balance, too much, or can be dangerous. Water is a really profound example of that. And we see this throughout Jewish and the biblical concept. We can't live without water, right? I mean, our bodies are 70% water. We cannot live without it. And yet the flood that happens in the time of Noah, or the threat of a flood, too much of it can kill us. And this becomes a very big biblical theme. What is necessary for life, but off balance, it becomes death. It destroys us. It destroys us either in our souls, or it literally destroys us physically. So there's a lot of this. Okay, streams of water appeared. I'm going to move through these because we have a lot here. Bearing the foundation of the world. Here's the word again for the foundation of the world. Again, the sense of there's the balance, there's the foundation, there's the way it needs to be, and there's the when it goes off kilter. And what is an example of off kilter? When you uttered a rebuke, when wind blasted forth, again, wind, natural, of course, but when it's excessive, it becomes what? A tornado or a hurricane or a dramatic devastation. From your nostril. And somebody pointed out yesterday, I think, that there is, in many traditional cultures, there is an image that these things happen when God is angry. We in our modern world would use different kind of language, as I referred yesterday or the day before or whenever, that there's a sense of an ecological disaster that happens when the earth is angry. We can use non-theological words to even describe that, right? If we treat the earth badly, the earth will respond, and we are in danger. So this is the psalmist's use of that. I'm going to just finish to 20 and then I'll open it up. Okay, so hang in there with your questions and comments. I want to get through to 20. So you were sending Yishlach Mumarom. You were sending a message from on high. Marom is high or high up. So what is the message from on high? Yamsheni mimayim rabim. You took me out from mayim, waters, rabim. He translated it waves. That literally means much water. He's trying to come up with an alliteration, so there's poetry in the English. But because in the Hebrew, mimayim rabim has a rhythm to it also. So from many waters, or maybe from churning waters. Now, this word Yamsheni is a very weird word in many ways, and we think this is the Shoresh. There's a lot of debate about Moshe Rabbeinu's word. And Moshe, we're told, he's called Moshe because the princess, the Egyptian princess, brings him out of the water. So people think this might be the same concept. Yatzileni, you saved me. Again, the Hatzalah word. Everybody knows Hatzalah. Yatzileni, you saved me. Me oive, from, again, this is one of the classic words for enemy or bad person. Oive, enemy. Oz, strong. Oz is the same word in the psalm that we sing, Oziv is Dimrat Yah. And the Israeli Moving Company in New York, the Oz, Wizard of Oz, what do they call that? I just saw that truck yesterday. The Oz Moving Company.
Oz movers, they're the best.
Oz Movers, right. But it's really the Israeli word Oz. Most Israeli companies in New York City are Israelis. And they get these young men who come to want to be in New York right after the army, and they get paid extremely off the book, shall we say, to schlep everybody's furniture, and many of the moving companies in New York are Israelis. Okay, so you saved me from a powerful, strong, Oz's strength, from a strong enemy. Umis onai, another word for enemy, from the one who hates me. So sometimes enemies can just be opponents that are because of a disagreement, right? But then there are the people who hate. And from those who hate me, ki amtsu mimenu, who ometz is another word for strong, or so who amtsu mimenu, then he uses the word ganged up, which I think is a good word, who kind of attacked me, who came on to me. 19. They advance biyom edi, yikad muni. So it's a word from lahakdim, to go forward, or kadima, to move forward. So they advance on me, biyom edi, on the day of my distress. Again, we're into a section of this psalm which is describing not where one feels protected and safe, but where the psalmist feels that there are enemies, that there are people who hate them, that there's a sense of being attacked. And from where does they advance on me? Not anytime, but on the day of my distress, exactly when I feel weak, when I'm down, when I don't have my full strength, that's when I'm attacked. That's when I feel I'm vulnerable, and that's actually when I'm attacked. Yud in 19, Vayihi, and it'll be Yud He Vav He, the holiness in the universe. Lamish An Li. It's a very interesting form of the Hebrew there, but Adonai, again, Levi doesn't use the word God. Adonai, the power in the universe, whatever is there that gives me strength, will come to give me strength. 20. V'yotzieni, bringing me la merchav. Merchav is from the shoresh resh chet bet, which means a big place or spread out, or and merchav is the opposite, or wide. Thank you, Yael. Wide. Thank you. It's the opposite of the word we saw earlier in the psalm for narrow, tsar. We saw the word tsar, so this is the contrast. When we feel crushed in, or narrow, or constricted, that's a place of pain and difficulty. And when we feel we are in a boundless space, when we experience wideness and openness, that's when we feel a sense of strength. And Yechaltzeni ki chafetz bi. Because notice in the Hebrew, there's no word for God. Levi puts it in. And if it's more comfortable, say, because the universe is delivering me, because the universe has some pleasure in my being in some place of comfort. Okay, let's stop there. And I see there are a bunch of questions or hands.
Jeff has had his hand up for a long time.
Okay.
Rabbi, I just have a question. With the Jewish prohibition of images and stuff, how come it on the Ark of the Covenant, those two winged figures, aren't they? Is that right to have that? I mean, they're figures.
Well, that's interesting, Shep. I've never thought about that. I mean, so the prohibition is against images of God, and therefore images of people were B'Tselem Elohim. So would the Kruvim fit in that category? I've never thought about that. I don't know. I think
Okay.
they're not in the category of image of God.
Okay.
Ira Rosenboom.
Great question.
Yeah, hi. Something caught my eye in the English translation at the end of verse 12. After dark waters, thick clouds, he uses an ellipsis there, which is the only spot in this whole psalm where one appears. And to me, an ellipsis implies that there's something left out or there's something more that's not being said. Is there anything in the Hebrew that would have driven him to do that?
Good question. Is Cantor Nimi here? Does he have a thought about that? Or Chazan Hirsch? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't see it myself or any of the Hebrew readers here.
I'm not seeing anything that would indicate this.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't see it either.
It's
It's a good point though, Ira, and it's a good picking up of that.
Maybe someone wants to look into one of the other translations and see how
Well,
that.
but he has other in ellipses, you know, I mean, there's one on 13 and 14. He uses them. Is that
No,
what you're
those are
saying?
M dashes, not ellipses.
Oh, I see the ellipses after thick clouds.
Yeah.
One? That's what you mean by ellipses, huh? Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know why. And I'm looking at Alter. He doesn't do anything like that.
It's just, I said, it was
Yeah, let me see
yeah.
if he has a comment in that at the beginning. Sorry about it. I mixed up the M dash and the ellipses. Oh my God. 12. Let me see if he has anything in the comments about that. Thick clouds. He doesn't say anything about it. Good question. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Ben Shafran?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Levy is an Orthodox rabbi, isn't he?
Say again?
Levy is an Orthodox rabbi.
I don't think so.
I think
No?
he's Reform.
I think he's Reform.
I-
Yes, he's
uh,
Reform.
I'm
I just looked in the beginning.
perplexed. I'm perplexed by some of his translations that seem to tone down the strength of the original Hebrew. For example, in verse 16, he says, streams of water appeared. The actual Hebrew is, the depth of water were afraid from what God rebuking it, and they were so afraid they parted and showed that the what do you call it? The depth of the foundations of the world. The Hebrew is actually much more dramatic than his
Yeah.
translations, and I wonder why.
Yeah. That's verse what? Let me just see what he said.
16.
16.
Yeah, I'm just,
Vayera'u. Vayera'u. Afike mayim.
Ben, I think that Yera'u could also be read as seen.
Yes,
from
it
the
could
word
be,
Yira'ot.
but it's more dramatic when it's read as feared,
Yes.
afraid.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
And he doesn't, I looked in his comments, for those who have the Levy book itself, he does do a nice job of, not footnotes, but commentary on various verses. But in none of the things that everybody's raised has he he comments on. But his comments are often very illuminating, and he often does explain why he did this or did that, but none of these things.
I think we need to contact Benjamin Summer up at the JTS and have him hurry up on his JPS commentary of Psalms that they've been working on for a decade up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Psalms is poetry is different, uses
Absolutely.
or doesn't use grammars. It's more variable. So, but I'm sure that we should give him a little nudge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the other one was like on verse 19. The second part, Vayihi Adonai lemish anli.
Yeah.
Mish'ani support, which
Yep.
would be much more dramatic than mainstay, which is a nautical term.
Uh-huh. And altar does use the word support. So you'll see if you have an altar there, but I'm looking at Psalter altar, it says, but the Lord became my support. They came at me on my disaster, but the Lord became my support. So altar agrees with you.
Well, and Alicia Fowler has looked into the analytical concordance while we've been talking.
Oh, thank you,
It says
Alicia. And
she
what does
shows
that
it
say?
as Yael. Alicia, I'll let you elucidate that point.
It's just what my Hebrew grammar is terrible, but it's what Yael was saying. It's the nifal for Ra. So nifal of see, to see.
Yeah.
So therefore it was seen, or in the kind of the reflexive.
Weird. Wow.
Well, thank you. We're going to count on you to keep that concordance open in front of you.
And then either Sherry or Simon.
Yeah, going back to what Shep had on verse 12, and why the ellipsis. If there's no reason in the Hebrew, I would suggest the following. You've got images of embracing darkness, thick clouds, dark water. It's almost like a pause. You're there, you stay there for a little while, and then all of a sudden you go
That's a
to
good
brightness.
That's
And
a
so
good
it
point.
may be more of a dramatic thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because of the contrast between the end of 12 and the beginning of 13.
And grammatically, he breaks 12 into two sentences. There's a period after night, and then dark waters, thick clouds. There's no
Yeah,
verb
he really
there.
separates that whole phrase. That's a very good point. Yep.
Yeah,
And-
that was Ira.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and alter does not do that. But that's why it's fun to look, compare, and contrast.
Susan or Doug?
Hi, can you hear? I don't see me on there.
Hear you fine.
We hear you,
Okay.
Doug.
Okay, this is probably very obscure, but again, in verse 12, I try to relate it to this week's Torah portion, which is one of my favorites, about disappearing into secret darkness. And also what you said about Esther, God's name is not present there. And God will not appear before Moses. Moses has to be in a cleft in the rock and can only see God's back as God goes by. God is not, we are not able to see God openly and clearly. And somehow I think that relates to this verse in my mind.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful connection. Beautiful. Love that. Thank you.
Linda Solomon?
Yes, sometimes an ellipsis in grammatically is used when a sentence is not completed. So it's letting you know that it's a part of a sentence, it's not completed sentence. So that may be why the ellipsis is used there.
Yeah, and then that's Levy's attempt to read it in the way that makes sense to him, which is, as Judy said, it's poetry. So we are, he's trying to make sense of it for him. And that's why it's fun to compare and contrast all of our different readers. But you're right, that's what he's trying to do there. And it brings a lot of attention to it. And I think, as Simon said, it really separates the end of that verse a little bit more from to make the build up for the contrast to verse 13, leaving a little bit more, your pause, dramatic. Yeah.
At the end of 12 in
Wait,
the Hebrew.
Michael,
we have people with, you have to raise your hand,
Put your
Michael.
hand up. There are two people ahead of you, and then we're going to have to go to our play out. Dean?
I just wanted to say quickly that verse 12 and 13 and 14 are infinitely linked to me in that it is the secret darkness and the embracing sukkah, the night, the dark waters, dark clouds. That's going to give cover to so that the brightness can come through in that dramatic force. And that coals of fire, and you all know I love this stuff, but coals of fire are very hot,
This is
burning, and then they turn dark.
Yep. Uh-huh. Beautiful. Love that.
Two more.
There's a lot of fire in this psalm for you, Dean.
Two more, and then we'll go to our play out. Sue Mears?
My question is on 11.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Fisher, it says they mounted a winged figure. In Alter, it's like 10 and 11 are written as God coming down. Who is there any clue as to who they is from the Hebrew?
Yeah, let's see, I'm gonna see, I don't understand where he gets they, honestly, from the Vayirkav. I wouldn't translate that as they myself. Anybody, other Hebrew people there?
Yael says it's a singular, not a plural in the
I know,
Hebrew.
I agree with Yael. And Alter says he mounted a cherub and flew.
Wow.
And by the way, Alter points out, which is that it's the cherub is a fierce winged beast, the charger ridden by the sky god in Canaanite mythology, not the dimpled darling of Renaissance paintings.
Right, so one last comment, Michael Goldstein. Thank you for raising your hand in chat.
Thank you. Just back on the end of 12, where Ira was concerned about the ellipsis in the English. In the Hebrew, there's a colon, and he just took the colon and turned it into an ellipsis. But the colon indicates that there's more coming, which is all listed in 13. No mystery to me.
So punctuation in the Hebrew is also commentary. There was, of course, no punctuation in the original. So punctuation itself is an add-on. So I think you can kind of take the punctuation in all biblical language, poetry and prose, as an add-on. So you can feel free to explore
Well,
whatever.
and more simply, what Michael, what you're seeing as a colon actually is the way a period is expressed in the Hebrew. If you'll see, every single verse ends with that mark, which is different in the Hebrew. So, Rabbi, if we could end our study now to move to our playout, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
Do you
Yes,
want to say anything about the concept of shaloshim and some
Yeah,
remarks
so
about Jeffrey?
in Jewish practices and rituals around death, we understand there to be kind of concentric circles. From the moment of death is one circle, then the next point is the moment of burial, and between death and burial is considered a liminal moment. Then from the moment of burial is the 7 days of Shiva, not from the moment of death, but from the moment of burial. And then those first 7 days have certain rules, and there's an intensity that we know about the closeness to the death. And then the first 30 days or the first month has another level of ritual and of observance and of practice. And then the third level is the year-long level. So we are now ending, and it's typical, and at CBST, we've taken the tradition, especially when there hasn't been enough around the death itself. Either somebody's out of town and we come back, or we come back together again. So traditionally, people will study something in particular or say Kaddish for the month of Shloshim when it wasn't a personal relative. And I know some of you have taken on saying Kaddish for Jeffrey, and we as a class, we want to mark the end of this month, which is called Shloshim, which is the Hebrew word for 30. So Shloshim is this certain category of time, and we now mark the end of 30 days since Jeffrey's burial. And now I want to hand it over to those who have prepared something for today.
All right. I'm not going to. This is done by Goldley, who is with us every day on the phone, but not visually. So I'll be sending the chat to her. I think actually I'm going to just let this speak for itself. I sent everyone two things: the lyrics and a note from Goldley that you can read in private, and I will be posting this on the Facebook page. We did want to premiere it here, so infinite thanks to Goldley and to Jack, who took Goldley's guidance and very, very sensitively really realized this into a piece of music that you will see now. Hold on, let me just make sure that I'm sharing this with the sound. Yes, okay, share sound, optimize for video. View full screen.
Now you know what it's like and where we go. Now you know, as your Mercedes laughter greets you from long ago. where loves once lost forever found are safely home. Now you know what's beyond this strife long after the show's closed. Now you know how to be above it all, and yet still not really know. Now you know, Jeffrey, now you know what it's like and how to let go. Now you know, to fully allow joy is fearing no foes. Now you know, only God's goodness cloaked in weightless, stress-free clothes. Now you know, secret recipes where spirit's milk and honey flow. Now you know, the fifth forever season where eternally we grow. Now you know, the face of the one, her holy head to toe. Now you know, is it what you hoped for when you were down and out with us below? Now you know, yes, now you know, how truly nothing matters and how Lord only knows. Now you know, this now is always, and always you will know. Now you know, what is this life, and what is there bestowed, and what is then bestowed? Now you know, always is now, and it's always now you'll know. Now you know, I hope, now you know, only love, reaping all the love you've sown. Now you know, all the knowing's divine smile and the letting go. Now you know, now you know, now you know, now you know.
Wow. Just perfect. Thank you. And thank you to Harold for saying Kaddish for this month. Thank you to Goldalee and to Jack. That was just spectacular. Zichrono Livracha, may his memory continue to bless us. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. We're going to leave the room open for a few minutes. Blessings, blessings to all.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Goldie. I
Thank
hope
you,
you
Harold.
find a way to see the video soon.
Goldie.
Thank you, Goldie.
Thank you all.
All right,
Thank you, everyone. I think Jeffrey would have loved this.
Yeah.
I hope so. All right, I'm gonna go. Shabbat shalom, everybody. See you
Shabbat
Tuesday night.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And this to his brother and sister, I
Love
assume.
to you all.
Okay, yes, we will make sure that it gets widely distributed.
Okay, especially
All right,
to
we'll go up. It'll go up on the Psalms class page right now, and you all should be getting the lyrics and Goldley's notes, and I will send Goldley everything in chat. All right, everybody, take care.
Thank you.
thank
Excellent
you.
work, Harold.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Harold.
Just
All right.
incredibly beautiful.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Rabbi,
Rabbi's gone.
she's gone. Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Have a good day, Harold.
Randy, since I see you right there, tell Debbie about this. This is something she would want to see.
Mm.
Okay, I'll tell you later.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you're the only
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry. I'm like in another world.
I know that you and Debbie knew him, so I just thought.
Yes. Yes, I was. She wasn't in class today, I guess.
She's working today.
Okay. Yes, I'll make sure that she knows about her.
Okay. I'm gone for a few hours and I'll be back later today. If anyone needs anything.
Yes, stop slacking off, Annika. Get back to work. Mwah, I'm kidding.
Very good.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Really?